Welcome to a brand new FPL series where I'm going to be rating your key FPL picks against the clock. So welcome to a brand new FPL series. Today I'm going to be trying to rate as many of the key FPL picks at the moment in 1 minute or less. So I'm up against the clock. The timer will appear just above me in a moment, and I'm going to be rating them from 1 star, which basically means get rid now or hard avoid, all the way to 5 star, which means definitely hold or buy. So to start off, we're going to be giving Kieran Trippier the rating. So if I add the timer now, Kieran Trippier finally blanked this week, and a 0-point haul from a yellow card and conceding the 2 goals against Wolves wasn't ideal, especially when you're considering he is 7 million in FPL at the moment. A lot of managers who already have him are obviously quite happy to hold him because they've got value tied up in him. However, I would suggest that if you downgraded him now, you're probably finding better value in midfield or up front. You can remove 2 to 2.5 million from him and still get a pretty decent defender for your money at the moment. Tsimikas, for instance, or maybe one of the Arsenal defenders, have much better fixtures and have slightly decent attacking upside as well. Kieran Trippier will tick over, but for that 2 million extra saving that you can spend in midfield, I think with the fixtures to come, Arsenal, okay, Bournemouth is a good fixture, but then after that it's Chelsea and Man United. Newcastle do look a little bit leggy at the moment, and even though he's still a good asset, I think 7 million now is probably just too much, and you can probably find better value elsewhere. So I'm going to give him 2 stars out of 5, which means you probably don't need to sell him, although I would probably start looking at options elsewhere. Player number 2 is Kaoru Mitoma, and 6.5 million, he's back down to his starting price. That ownership is probably a lot higher in general across the game than it would be in the top million or top 100k, for instance. So I think he's a player that we should be looking at getting in at the moment, despite blanking against Fulham. The next 3 fixtures are fantastic. Everton, Sheffield United is the banker, and then Nottingham Forest in game week 13 as well. So those are 3 good fixtures. The 6.5 million assets are popular at the moment, so I'm only going to give him 4 stars out of 5, which means he is a good buy, but I don't think you need to be getting rid of the likes of Bryan Mbeumo or Moussa Diaby at 6.5 million to squeeze him in. The underlying data is good, but the other assets also have good underlying data too. So he's a player that I'd be more than happy to bring into my side if you could find a space. I don't think you need to rip apart your teams for him as of now. I wish I had more than 1 minute on Darwin Nunez. He is a fantastic FPL option when he's getting starts, and at the moment, it looks like he is the centre-forward option for Liverpool at the moment. The underlying data, even without penalties, is absolutely ludicrous. So if you know that he's going to be starting games, he is a fantastic pickup. 7.4 million, he's still incredibly good value for money. And the fixtures over the next 5 are good as well. Luton, Brentford, Fulham and Sheffield United in 4 of the next 5. Absolutely brilliant. The slight risk is obviously whether or not he starts every single week, but in the form he's in at the moment, he looks talismanic for Liverpool alongside Mo Salah. So I would be rating him a 4 star out of 5 because I don't think you need to be ripping up your team. I don't think you need to sell Ollie Watkins to get him if you've got him, for instance. But I'd say that he's maybe 1 notch below the likes of Ollie Watkins. So I'd go 4 stars out of 5. Another Liverpool player, and one that I'm really interested in this week, is Tsimikas. At 4.5 million, he is still very, very cheap. I did recommend him last week on the watch list, and I kind of wish I brought him in for Aguerd this week in my team. Now, with Luton up next, that is a prime fixture. Luton don't really score a lot of goals, so it's a prime defensive fixture, and you'd expect him to start and get forward quite a lot. The underlying data we shouldn't really read too much into just yet, because he's only played 2 full matches so far, but the signs are promising, and I'd expect there to be a decent chance of a clean sheet in at least 3 of the next 5 games. So he's a player who is great value for money. He's starting for the foreseeable with Robertson injured. I think I'm going to rate him 5 stars out of 5, which means basically if you can, get him as soon as possible. Well, a hat-trick for Eddie Nketiah over the weekend, so obviously he's going to be talked about a lot in FPL this week. I think the fact that he's got Newcastle up next means that you probably don't need to buy him just yet. He is lowly owned as well, so he's not going to hurt your rank if he goes off again without you having him in your team. And the underlying data is decent, But in comparison to other strikers, I don't think it's amazing. I think he's a very good third striker option, but I'd definitely put him one notch below the likes of Watkins, Darwin, or even Alvarez, for instance. But he is better value for money. So if you've got that third striker slot and a 5.5 million space in your side, I'd say that he's maybe 4 or 5 stars. But I think for most people in that 3-5-2 setup, I'm going to rate him at 3 stars at the moment, which means that I don't think he's a bad buy, but I don't think you need to be ripping up your teams to get him right now. I think game week 12, when they go up against Burnley at home, is a much better time to be eyeing up a player like Nketiah. And we're not completely sure that he's definitely going to be starting every week, even though the signs are pretty good. So I think 3 stars for now, but talk to me next week ahead of Burnley at home and then a really good fixture run after that. It could be a great time to pick him up then. A player that I'm a little bit worried about owning myself at the moment is Destiny Udogie. 4.9 million, I've got a lot of value tied up in him now because I got him at the start of the season. But he's been flattering to deceive a little bit recently and obviously picked up that injury, which means he didn't play in game week 10 either. For what it's worth, I expect him to be back in game week 11. I think the turnaround was just a little bit too quick for the Monday, Friday games. But the fixture run ahead isn't fantastic either. Chelsea at home in game week 11, followed by Villa in 13, Man City in 14, and then West Ham in 15 isn't great either. I don't think there are too many clean sheets there on offer for Spurs assets. So I'm actually going to name him as a 2-star player out of 5 right now. I don't think that he's an essential sell, but I think there are plenty of other defenders around this price point you could be flocking to. And I just don't think you need him right now, especially when you've got Pedro Porro, who I think is a more attacking Spurs fullback, is a better option even though he's more money. The underlying data for Udogie isn't great, the fixtures aren't great, and I think that I would probably look to sell him if you can, unless you've got other fires elsewhere. So a player that a lot of people were starting to have doubts about, even last game week against Luton at home, was Moussa Diaby. Watkins obviously is returning a lot at the moment, and Diaby, as the other Aston Villa option, wasn't really getting much out of it at the moment. However, goal and assist against Luton probably alleviated fears and worries for owners. So I'm going to put him down as 3 stars out of 5, which means any owners out there, especially with the next 4 fixtures, shouldn't be looking at selling him anytime soon, even though the underlying data is still probably not that fantastic. I think he'll tick along really nicely. Nottingham Forest, Fulham and Bournemouth in 3 of the next 4 is absolutely fine to hold on to him. I don't think you need to get rid of him to fund the likes of a Mitoma, for instance. I think whatever you've got at the moment, you hold, and then you probably look at selling him ahead of game week 15 when they go up against Man City. For the time being, I'm rating him 3 stars. I don't think if you don't have him yet, he's an essential buy. But if you've got a slot that's around 6.5 to 7 million in your side, you could look at buying him. I think it's more of a hold if you've got already, though. The final player I'm looking at today is Bryan Mbeumo, and with back-to-back double-digit hauls, he's on a lot of people's minds once again in FPL. I think game week 11 is fantastic. West Ham at home are struggling a little bit at the moment, and Mbeumo could capitalise on that. However, when you look at the next 2 fixtures after that, Liverpool and Arsenal, even though they're both conceding a couple of goals at the moment, I don't think it's an essential pickup right now. However, once we get to game week 14, Luton at home, and the fact that they'll have a double game week in, I think it's game week 20, you can start looking at Brentford assets once again. However, it is important to note that they also blank a couple of weeks before that. I think it's in game week 18. So do keep that in mind. I'm going with 3 stars out of 5 as well, which means if you've already got him, you're certainly not getting rid ahead of West Ham at home. He's on penalties. The underlying data is fantastic. But I don't think if you've not got him yet, you buy him now. I think you probably wait for game week 14, if at all, especially when you consider the likes of Mitoma and Diaby are already performing well and have better fixtures at this price point. Right then, those are the 8 players I'm looking at today. Hopefully you enjoyed the new style of video. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of my player ratings, if you'd rank any of them differently. I'm sure there are a couple you would. And also what you thought of the video style in general. If you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. It really does motivate me to keep putting out new content and try new things as well. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead of game week 11, and I'll see you ahead of my team selection video coming out on Thursday morning.